Yo, what's happening, guys? It's your boy Jack here, and welcome back to the second take. We already tried to do this before, but we found out that nobody was actually talking during this. There was no audio, so we're heading back to the old, just stick it by the laptop. So I'm in a Discord call now with one and only Lumunix. He's a very well-known person in the furry fandom. Well, at least by some of us. Not well. I really probably just insulted you with that.
I'm just a dork. Like, I'm not well known. I'm just.
I was gonna say compared to Majira, but that would have been worse. That would have made it worse. Oh my. So right here on the screen, you could see that that's his little character. It's. Can you tell us actually a little bit about your character? Because some of us at home might not know what this is, or what even that is, or what the whole furry thing is.
So, basically, history of kind of like how I came up with Lumi. Basically, was a concept of a bunch of feedback from friends in general from my first persona, and made manifest into a new iteration of myself. So, when I got started in the fandom in 2009, I had a dragon sona by the name of Daryl. Basically, that was my representation of myself. It's like I had that dragon sona for years. And then, as I reached changing points more or less in my life, I decided to make a new sona, and Lumi was the second sona I basically came up with.
So how'd you? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I basically wanted to make a sona that better reflected what I loved and what I liked, as well as just was a little bit more unique than just a generic dragon. Because at the time I was looking at, I wanted to get a fursuit. Dragon character fursuits didn't exactly turn out too well, so I wanted to start from scratch. So I came up with Lumi. I wanted a fox originally. I originally designed Lumi as a standard red fox, but I was like, that's too basic. I tried doing a fennec, and I had an initial pattern of circuit designs and patterns in general. And I showed it to one of my friends originally. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this initial idea for a sona? And they're just like, damn, you chose a fennec. You must get good reception on those ears. And then I added Wi-Fi logos to the back of my Sona's ears as a result of those comments. I also advised quite a bit of the design in regards to those comments from a friend, but mainly my Sona is a combination of me, my interests, and who I am. My Sona's not really a different character. It's me.
Yeah.
Me with bigger ears is my best definition of it.
So how'd you come up with the name Luminex? Because this is actually a question that I'm actually curious about. Because Luminex doesn't seem like from the original names. Because I mean, my Sona's name is Zeus. It's just pretty obvious. You could think of it, but Luminex is something that you have to dig deeper. And so, what came up with that? Was it like a friend suggestion, a joke, or was it just
kind
lots of hours of thinking?
Of just being unique, really. Honestly, the original name for my Sona was going to be Unix, based off the original operating system. So this is not known by quite a few people, but Unix predates Linux. Unix is the original operating system that most people are familiar with when they reference a lot of Linux functionality. And it was mainframe software. And Unix was pretty much the basis of what you see in modern day Mac OS. So any Apple computer nowadays, you can thank to Unix-based operating systems. Lumunix, the name, came from a combination of the word illumination and then the operating system name Unix, and I just mashed them together. The reason why I chose illumination was mainly I was at a point in my life I was really trying to break out of my shell, trying to improve upon myself. So
More
Lumunix,
socially.
I come to realization of who I was, and Lumunix just a mishmash of words at that point.
So what do you mean by I have the little memory of a goldfish. So be more open with yourself. Is that with like identity things? Like if you're not comfortable with talking about this, then I understand. But is it related to a identity, like as in orientation or gender type thing? Was that like the point where you discovered, or was that something beforehand?
It was more or less, I wouldn't call it directly tangential to identity. Like, sure, I make no observations. I am flamboyantly gay. I talk about my boyfriend a lot. I love him to death, and there's nothing that will change about that. But that's not the primary reason of my name. The main reason was basically I had some unhealthy decisions in my life, and I made strides to avoid them. I was in a very bad place a number of years ago, with suicidal tendencies, and part of me making a new Sona and part of me building a new identity for myself was kind of like, hey, I'm going to start from square one. I'm going to build a world better than the one I had. And I'm going to make a life worth living. And that's kind of where I came from.
So the fandom and the creation of the new Sona was also like a way to kind of get back up on your feet in a way. Is that what you're referencing to, or is it more the identity or is it just a combination?
Getting back up on my feet, because at the point I made Bloomy, I was not in the greatest state of mind. I honestly, to give some perspective, I have never had a supporting family. I have always pretty much been by my lonesome. I have had to succeed where others have failed, and countless of others have failed before me with no support network whatsoever. My family would always say, "Why didn't you go to be a doctor? Why didn't you go be a chemist?" You kind of get the idea.
Yeah.
You kind of get where I'm coming from here.
Thank goodness you did. Thank goodness.
No, come back until this year's doctor. No, come back unless you're doctor.
Oh gosh! Oh gosh! I can already hear the comments. Oh my gosh! It's like, I mean, I'm glad that, because the human behind the voice here, like the easiest coming out. You know, the whole family was supporting about it. You know, they're like, oh yeah, we support. Love is love. But with like other people like Fluke, who didn't have the easiest coming out. What was is this what you was that a factor with that? Was it? Did they accept it, or did you never come out to them?
I came out to my family. They did not take it well.
Oh.
So
if you don't, yeah, honestly, that's all. If you don't want to talk about it anymore, then that's all I need. But if you wanted to explain more, then go ahead.
I'm willing to talk about it only because that it upsets me, and honestly, I'm envious of anyone who has a better situation than what I came out with. And honestly, I hope that they would have a better situation than when I came out. Because when I came out, it was more or less a case of, oh, we'll pretend that didn't happen. Like, my entire family pretended I never even said it and basically plugged their ears.
So it's like they still thought they still treated you as someone who was straight, but they didn't understand it in a way, or did they just they just completely ignored it, like they didn't care about it?
Completely ignored it. They didn't even think about it. Like, it wasn't even a thought. It only became a problem when I started dating my
So it
boyfriend.
wasn't like fluke where they were like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and they were just like thumbs down about it and like negative about it. They were just like kind of more neutral about it, where they didn't care, but they didn't support it, yet they didn't hate it.
I came out to them. They're like, "Oh yeah, of course we support it." And then I tried to introduce my boyfriend, and then hostility.
Oh.
Unless you have, here's the thing: when it comes to dealing with family and coming out, it can go quite a number of ways, and one of them is they will accept saying, "Hey, whatever you say." In this case, "Hey, I'm gay." They'll accept it wholeheartedly. They won't believe it, though. They will believe it when you bring your first boyfriend home, and then they'll have an opinion. And that's kind of the situation I got in, where it was just a case of, "Hey, here's my boyfriend. I want you to meet my boyfriend." And then it's a case of, no, we don't know about anything. Just shut up.
Yeah.
Don't talk. It doesn't exist. You're our most successful son. We can't be discreet like this.
Oh my gosh, it seems like it was just chaos. And because I mean, like, I think that mine was kind of easier because one, it's they just don't they kind of don't really understand the branches because I'm demi and polysexual. Demisexual, for the people at home, is attraction, no sexual attraction unless you develop a deep relationship, and polysexual is attraction to most but not all genders. So it's kind of like pan or bisexual, but gender still plays a role in it. But yeah, they said that it's kind of, it just seemed like normal, and that they thought I was just putting a label on me just so I could feel accepted or special or something. I was like, what? No, no, what is this? It's literally who I am. Like, it's if people want to say, if they want to do, it's kind of like the furry thing. If they want to call themselves a furry, then go ahead.
No, I never really had that luxury.
'Cause,
Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Growing up, I was the firstborn child of my parents. So, first male child. So, you kind of get where I'm going with this, but
because you're kind of leading by example for the youngers.
Yes, exactly. In the case of setting an example, I was the first son, because I do have a brother and I have two sisters. They're triplets, by the way.
Wait, what? You have two sisters and triple? My brain is hurting. How does that work? Are they conjoined?
Okay. I was the firstborn. I was March 10th.
Oh, I remember. Oh, not remember. What am I doing? What am I saying? Oh my gosh, my brain. I'm having a stroke here. So I just understand it now. So you had two sisters and your brother. They were set of triplets, is what you're saying.
Yes. So I was the firstborn. So of my parents, there are four siblings. So me, my sister, my other sister, and my little brother. I'm the oldest. I am the eldest sibling out of everyone. I was single child up to the point I was 5 years old. And then my little brother and my two sisters entered the picture. As triplets. So, like I said, I'm from a larger family. In the case of that, well, just say my parents expected me to be the example, to be the one to set the standard, so everyone else would be more successful behind me.
Yeah, because
that's a lot of stress, and to the extent where they claim I failed because I have simultaneously, since I came out, I have simultaneously been the most successful sibling out of my entire family, and the only gay one. So that's caused quite a bit of resentment because I have been far more successful than anyone in my extended family by vast magnitudes.
But apparently it doesn't matter because you're gay, and it's just like, oh my goodness, you're gay. Oh my goodness, like I hate to say this, but it sounds like even though you're the most successful from your thing, they still, it's, I really don't want to say that because I feel like I'll offend you, and
No, say it.
it's like I just
Say
feel
it.
like though that they don't see you the same, like as a same
They
person
don't.
as they, because
They don't.
I'm really sorry if I'm offending you because it's it's just one of the most in the heat topics.
No, like you're saying the truth in this scenario that they never did see me the same anymore ever since I came out to them. Like that's the thing. They never did see me the same. They saw me as the fallen angel, the person who set the example,
Angel has
yet
fallen.
failed entirely, yet succeeded where they entirely failed, which doesn't makes no sense. Like that's the thing. When I say I succeeded, I have one upped even my dad. Like I went and got my master's degree in engineering. I did all the additional schoolwork. I did everything right. And I have found nothing but success in my career because of the efforts that I've put in. And that's not enough for family.
Yeah. So go ahead.
That is not enough for them.
All right.
They want
So
kids. They want grandchildren. They're upset that I will never give it to them.
okay,
And
that is bull honky. You could still have a gay or lesbian couple and still have kids. They're just for gay people. You just can't really have biological, but for lesbians, maybe it depends. If you want to do that, but that's just bull crap. For people who think that you can't have grandkids if you're gay, that's bull.
well, they've taken a hook, line, and sinker, as well as my extended family, who is deeply Trump supporter / religious nut jobs.
Oh, okay, yeah, we're gonna try and keep politics out of this, because that's one thing that I cross the line with politics is the only thing that is remotely politics, which is probably which I discuss sometimes, is police's role, which we're not going to get into that because that is definitely off topic and that's going to be a whole different episode. But so a couple of last questions before we end this episode here. I've experienced this before, but do you think that most furries should quote unquote come out as furry? And like, do you think that their parents or friends' actions are justified with being like, oh, like, ugh, or disgusted, weird, maybe even revolting in a way? Do you think they're justified in that, or do you think that they should hide it or come out at all as a furry, just like as someone who's like gay or trans or something like that?
So here's the thing. Being a furry does not mean you are trans, you're gay. It doesn't indicate any form of orientation whatsoever. Being a furry, in my mindset, is entirely a hobby. And last time I checked, you don't come out about your hobbies. You don't say, "Oh, I'm into fencing," and then you worry about people cutting you out of a friend circle for being into fencing.
I'm
Which
into
honestly,
drawing animals.
is as a kid, yeah, I was into fencing. I actually participated in the Arnold Fencing Classic, and I was one of the best fencers in Western Pennsylvania
Did a
when
lot
I
of
was
poking.
competing. Like, yeah, I did professional sword fighting. That was what I did for a number of years, and
You made some good points there.
but you don't come out. My point is, you don't come out about a hobby. Like, there's no coming out about being into what you're into. You don't say, "Mom, Dad, I need you to understand me. I like Call of Duty.
That is actually almost exactly.
Let's be honest. Have you ever heard something like that?
Yeah, for me, that was almost like I literally sat my parents down and I was like, you know what the furry fandom is? And they were like, no. And the first thing that my mom looked up was a Wikipedia article that says furries are a sexual fetish. And she now hates the furry fandom and thinks of me as a weirdo and doesn't want me to hear anything about it. And she thinks it's a sexual thing, which I find it disgusting, actually, with this, sex and
Furries are
furries
not
don't meet.
sexual. They're sex positive. There's a difference, and
Exactly.
these idiots don't want to understand it.
They celebrate. Just the identity and just acts of sex, but they don't I'm.
Do,
It's kind of hard to
do you want to?
explain.
Do you want to know why furry has been co-opted by the LGBTQ?
Because it's a lot of they're very accepting of it, and there's quite a bit of surveys that say like 90% of furries are in the LGBTQ, which I probably think that it's fraudulent, but I don't think that that's not false and entirely.
I'm not. I'm not asking for the statistics of First Science. I respect their research, and I think their research is top notch from a university's
Yeah, except
perspective.
the study that my mom saw that said 95% of furries are into the sexual side.
My question is, why do you think that? I don't want you to reference a study. I want you to tell me why you think it, and then I'll explain to you my observations from being in the fandom.
Why can you repeat what you're asking me? Like why I don't think it's a sexual thing, or why I think it's a sexual thing, or what?
I'm asking you, why do you think that the majority of people in the fandom are LGBTQ, or identify as such?
Well, it's when I say majority, it's not like 99%, or like I say it's more than 50%, and
It's officially about 60%, according to First
well,
Science.
it's just what I think of that. Like, I mean, your majority might be different from my majority. It's just down to what you think of that. That's number one, and number two, I think it's more of an accepting fandom because it means like it's very organized around around community and acceptance, and if someone comes out like, hey, I'm queer, and your furry friends are like, great, that's great, like they support you for whatever. It's no, and there's a lot of people who a lot of resources about this, and since the community is more close, it could come up in conversation, and you could be like, huh, that sounds interesting. I might research that, see, and you might find out and question yourself, and might find out that it's something. So it's just seems like it's more of an accepting community, and the LGBTQ is something that's mostly, unless you're already like comfortable and came out to everybody, then it's not really something that is in like the front page news of your life. It's mostly kept behind some type of barrier, or mostly hidden at all if you didn't come out yet. But it's just mostly acceptance, in my opinion.
So, in my opinion, why I see the majority of people in the furry fandom as LGBT, and coming from being me individually as also someone who identifies as being gay, in the LGBT community and in the furry community in general. My take is that you have a community that has been fundamentally found over the years over the internet, regardless of any one defining media, such as, like, for example, let's take My Little Pony as an example that formed the Brony community. They're a community that has been defined by an electronic media, wouldn't you say? They have been defined by a TV show.
So it's
correct?
kind of like cosplay in a sort of sense. It's when people say like, "Oh, the bronies, they're weird." It's not actually that different from cosplay in a way. It's just same thing.
Not
It's
kind of what I'm getting at really here.
all right. That was
So
kind of my yeah. I was kind of straying off from that. It was not probably related, but yeah. So it's
I'm saying that most fandoms that you know of, in the terms of being a fandom, they're focused on a specific media, correct? Like My Little Pony is focused on, well, obviously the My Little Pony show. You have, for example, Comic Book Heroes, which is focused on Marvel or DC. Comic book heroes, like they have a medium, they have a media associated with them. The furry fandom is completely unique in that regard. Is there is no central driving media source behind the fandom itself besides the personalities that encompass the fandom itself. So I'm talking about Majira, Kiwi, everyone else that defines the furry community, that defines the furry community,
words are
that
hard.
helps define it. Um, there's not one central defining, as you would say, gospel for, oh, this is the Warhammer 40K. This is the Warhammer 40K group. We talk about Warhammer 40K and the history and the lore of Warhammer 40K. It doesn't exist in the furry fandom, so to speak. And the reason why, at least in my opinion, why a lot of the furry fandom got co-opted by LGBT is that you have a fandom that is fundamentally driven by individuals and their own individuality and personalities. And the fact that they are defining themselves through a character format, an anthropomorphic character format that defines their true ideal self. You're putting a mask on yourself of who you want to be and who you want to represent. In the furry fandom, you could be whoever you want. You could be a dragon. You could be a wolf. You could be a fennec, like me. You can be
Nice plug.
whoever you want. It's a concept of, honestly, I think the furry fandom is more or less the concept of a masquerade. Let's put on a mask. Let's put on a presentation. Let's put on a performance. Damn you.
So it doesn't
Let's
matter really what's the human behind the mask. It's mostly it's kind of like a thing to like escape reality and just to be something that you would want to be or something that's where you can create it and be whatever you
It's a
want.
form of escapism, exactly. But also, it's a form of defense for those who identify as LGBT. So, much like my story, where I don't have an accepting family, I have very hostile family. It allows me to define a new identity.
Yeah,
It
because I didn't even
allows me
know
to
that you
define
were
me.
gay or anything like that. Because I didn't even know that even Beta Eta Delota was gay, or anything like that. Like you can't even tell unless they have like a LGBTQ tag in the Twitch streams. Like you can't tell. Like you can't tell if anybody is gay or anything. It's like especially with the
Exactly,
voice. Like
but
unless
that's
it's
the
like the
draw.
like it's basically unless it's like somebody that's like wearing like a pride flag, then you can't really say like like oh like and even then they might just be supporting it. But it's just like it's something that like unless you're just holding a sign that says I'm gay, then
Yeah, exactly.
nobody's gonna really know that. And even then, somebody might not know that about you because unless, like, again with that, it's like even without the furry costume on it, they probably wouldn't even know. It's something that's accepted.
Exactly. And part of it is just creating a front for the hate, the vitriol, the negative comments that you receive for being um gay, trans. It doesn't matter. Like when it comes to any sexual orientation or identity. The thing is, and what attracts a lot of LGBT Q for furries in general is that you can put up this front. You can define who you really are and not be inherently judged for it by the lesser individuals of our society. And what I mean by lesser individuals is saying, oh, you're gay, you have nothing to, you can't speak to me.
Okay, I swear those people just need to get just. Ugh. They are just the scum of the earth. People say that.
But here's the thing. The reason why I mention that is because I escaped that. I personally have escaped that. I have had, all I have to do is log on to Facebook, log on and see my high school friends and see they have not progressed from anywhere from their original standpoints of where I left them all those years ago. And I realized that I have become far better than they could ever obtain by just being myself.
All right. So let's get back onto the topic of furry because we kind of sidetracked to LGBTQ. So, what do you think has been like the most exciting, the pros to this fandom and the cons to this? Like besides like the community of this, because it's because that's probably like the most spoken out answer is basically community. What do you think is like the best part of it? And if community is your answer, then you can, then you could just say that. But what's the most driving factor to be in this fandom?
The most driving factor about this fandom is that it's a fandom primarily associated with just being yourself. It's not necessarily, I would say, community is the biggest factor. It is definitely an important factor.
Yes.
But I would say that in this fandom, you can put up a persona of being your ideal self and be judged on that ideal self rather than being on the person you are currently. You can be that idealized version of yourself and work towards making efforts to being that idealized version of yourself.
All right, and so let's. What do you think is the most important message for new furries or people who are on the fence about this fandom? Like, what do you say to them, or for those who just are afraid that they'll get judged about this, about their interests?
My response would be how do I phrase this? My response would be they made fun. They made fun of Galileo for claiming that the world was round.
Some people still think it's flat, that's we're not going to talk about that.
Regardless of that completely disprovable notion, and I will publicly say that flat earthers are complete dipshits. No, I'm not afraid to say that. They are dipshits.
Well, I mean, technically in a way, however, they're not.
To the dipshits, I'm going to give them one piece of credit. What they really are looking for, and what they really fail to understand, is they want a sense of community. They want a sense of accepting. And that with the flat earth community, and I will address them as such, the flat earth community is what they really want, is they want to be accepted as a community. They don't care that their whole notion of being a community is complete and total bullshit and is complete and total anti-science in the first place. They just want to fit into the world. And you have basically the premise of why a lot of people participate in organized religions across the world in general. They want a sense of community.
Yeah, because the only thing that's the only person that ever actually made sense of that community was they said that it looks flat from when you look at them. Like, no shit, Sherlock. It looks flat. It looks frickin' flat, but it's round. It looks frickin' flat, but like that's the only thing that you could give credit for, and just all the laws of physics and claiming that gravity doesn't exist. But we're not going to get onto that because, it's like, we're not going to get into
Like,
that thing because we're just going to take too much time with that.
I guess if you want to summarize my entire personality set, at least in that summary, is I fully recognize the importance of community, be it community formed by religion, community formed by a particular interest, such as furries, community such as art. I recognize the importance in the social aspect and the social nature of being human. And that is the fundamental concept at play here. That is not just identifying what is human, what is our personal nature. Humans are social creatures by definition. We want to interact with each other, even if it's in the most obscene topics imaginable. We want to interact with others. However, there comes a point where you need to accept that you're in it for the community. You're not in it for the actual knowledge, and which is where I acknowledge the flat earthers. Is I recognize they want a community, and they have felt more important than they ever have in their entire lives of being dejects from society and education in general.
No,
I understand that feeling of belonging.
No, the only time where it's not acceptable is cults, but that's obviously something. It's both wrong and probably illegal in some ways. But
exactly.
Yeah, so,
but you can kind of tell from my responses, at least in this, that I personally am not a religious person. I believe in logic.
But we're not going to get into religion because that's also a very heat topic that I tried to keep on. We're just. Yeah. So I could actually go back to gonna go back to your little comment about humans being social creatures. We are very social, and to actually prove that, they actually did a study where they locked this guy in a room for 3 days, where it was completely white. The light was I don't even know if it's white, but it's literally just a regular light, and it never turned off, and everything was white. Everything was plain. It was just water. Everything was plain. It was just basically everything was white. There was nothing to do, no books, nothing. You were just in there with your thoughts, and that guy almost went insane with that. He barely survived those 3 days without losing his mind. And he actually made and documented this experience. If you guys wanted to check it out, it's by this guy called Vsauce. It's on his new thing called Minefield. And it's the first episode called Isolation. And it's very interesting because it just shows how much we need interaction, because it's one of his statements that actually stuck with me, because he says that he doesn't like eating now, but it's not that the food doesn't taste terrible. It's because he wants to have a meal with people and to actually talk with people. And, he saw himself doing things that he didn't think he'd ever do, like exercise. He was doing that a lot more. And, he started to lose his, cognitive abilities with, like, counting, because he lost count very easily. And he could count the alphabet, he could count the alphabet backwards, but he could barely say it forwards. It just shows how, you could go insane with just very little interaction, and it's just goes back to we're very social creatures.
Exactly, and it doesn't. Here's the thing: our communities can be defined even regardless of facts and logic. That's I guess my main standing point is there are communities focused around
celebration
of lack of knowledge, or celebration of lack of knowledge in general. And I'm here to say that is not right. Like, I understand why humans as creatures seek out communities to be a part of. I understand fully why we want to seek longing and we want to seek acceptance. I do not see a logical conclusion of accepting pure fiction to form a community, and that's kind of where I personally draw the line. Is if you're forming a community along the ideas of along the ideas of fiction or telling half truths, that's where you kind of anger me, because you're forming a community for the wrong reason. You're forming a community as a weapon, more or less, than an actual way for people to get together and communicate thoughts or ideas.
All right, so we're getting a little bit long, so we're gonna wrap up with a couple of questions. So, a couple of things that about conventions. How we're gonna start off with the elephant in the room, which is COVID. So how do you think that's affected the fandom, especially with all conventions being canceled and everything having to go virtual? And so how has it affected you as a furry, or as your interest?
You're making me feel like I'm some sort of representative. I'm not.
Representative Lumunix, you may proceed.
Like, no, I'm no representative. I'm just talking my personal experience, just to preface this. Honestly, at least in terms of conventions and in terms of how things are currently, I can't lie. It has affected me quite a bit. Like, I've had more depressive phases during this past year than I've had in quite a long while. It has affected me on a personal level, and it has affected me mentally.
Yeah, it's been a tough year for all of us, especially with the quarantine at the beginning, and because I mean, I literally did not see the highway for 2 weeks, and I live right next to it. It's only covered by a small hill, and I did not see it for 2 weeks. I was stuck in this house for 2 weeks straight without heading outside, and even then it was.
Put it this way. I wanted to go to more cons this year. I legit bought a new car with the hopes of
that sucks.
I bought a new car with the hopes of going to more cons. And do you want to know how many miles are on that goddamn odometer from a brand new car?
0.
Only 3,000 in this entire year. And the car had 0 on the odometer when I bought it.
Oh my gosh, I was right. Yeah. So go ahead.
So it's more or less a case of, like, I have wanted to go to cons, and honestly, I miss cons.
Aquatifer. So woo! Rainforest. We all remember how that went. We all remember how that was a huge success.
That was a 21-hour drive of nightmares for me
We all remember Rainforest. We all remember how that was a big success. Yay, hey. You know how that's made us all great human beings, and how it was a good... Yay. Oh my God.
Like, I greatly miss conventions. But honestly...
Go ahead.
Honestly, I've seen the creativity of the fandom emerge in ways I've never thought I thought it would.
Because I actually became a furry during quarantine, so it's actually been more like time to think about myself. While some people might have more time to think in sometimes negative ways, as you mentioned with your more depressive thoughts with this past year, but sometimes it's positives, like mine's, where it's joined the furry fandom and all that stuff. And and little cheat sheet, I already told you this, but yes, you can fly, and you can take a train to Wisconsin Dells. Little tip. Little tip: you could take a train to Wisconsin Dells. You could just fly
But
in
I
Chicago
guess,
and then take a train to Wisconsin Dells.
but you found the furry fandom during quarantine, right?
Yeah, it was basically so it's
So I
I
need to ask you, how did you find the fandom?
yeah,
I'm
no,
gonna
no,
have to
it's
ask.
very short, but it's oh my goodness, it's of all the people, Anthony Padilla, like his literal video I spent a day with a furry. That was literally like one of the things, like, oh, like, that's something to look into. And it first officially started with The Odd Ones Out, because he was rumored to be a furry, and I like to see his videos, and he did go to MFF. He did confirm that, and once I actually did some research, and one of my first furry YouTubers that I actually saw, I think, was Bakari or Furry Foofy. I don't know which
Sorry,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, it was like describing what the furry fandom was. And then it was like I was with my friend, who was his brother was a furry, and I was like, do you know what the furry fandom is? And he was like, yeah, and he was very accepting, and it's yeah, it was just, yeah, and the family kind of took it in mixed ways, but yeah, so it just traced back to YouTube in the general way. And I'm still waiting
But
for a quota for next year, because that's my local con. And yes, try and take that little that little trick that I saw. You could just fly to
I
Chicago.
actually I
And
actually went to Aquata for the last Aquata for before.
yeah, I saw that. I think yeah, of all yeah, like, I think you were there with Glitch, Beta was there,
Pineapple, yeah.
Addy was there,
Yep.
that Crazy Canine was the guest of honor that year. I think even Telephone and Majira was the year before, or sorry, 2017. They were at one of the first Aquatifiers.
Like, getting there was the biggest pain in the ass I've ever had a con.
Yeah, because
We so little known thing. Getting to a Aquatifer was 21-hour drive where we encountered head-on collision
oh shit.
with a lead car for a tractor trailer. We saw them barrel into the side of the road.
Oh shit.
This was during like the last hour of our trek, but we basically spent 21 hours. It was me, Beta, my boyfriend, Pineapple, and Dolos.
Oh yeah, Pineapple was there, and Solace was there.
All crammed in a car for 21 hours.
Welcome to Wisconsin. This is where we have beer, cube, and cheese door. Welcome to Wisconsin.
We basically teed off driving to get to there, and honestly, getting there wasn't too much of an issue. Getting back was the biggest pain of our life, where we basically said, let's not do that again.
Well, I mean, now that you know better from a true Wisconsinite, you could just, and I think that when I actually did some research, guess what the ticket price from Chicago to Linden Station is? $36. That's round trip. That thing is like a fourth of, like, probably like a very short flight. That is,
Now, when we were buying tickets, round trip was $550.
and that's for the train. $36 for the train. So
Yeah, like what we were doing a complete round trip with airline. That would have been like $550.
this is why I fly Southwest. You get free carry-ons and free bags and free snacks. Totally not sponsored, by the way.
But that's kind of why we decided to drive it, is between 4 people and buying tickets, it was just more economical for us to all tee off driving.
And you
driving
probably
than it-
wouldn't trust your fursuit with your life, anything with those people. You wouldn't trust them with your life.
Honestly, I haven't had too much of a problem with airline employees, only because that it's how I pack my suit that makes them scared to lose it.
Yeah, because I think you said you put in like a gun case or something, or was that from somewhere?
Yes, I actually transport my fursuit into two giant Pelican Defender gun cases. And little known fact, if you are a furry and you are looking to travel with your fursuit, if you get a Pelican 1620 case, that's the exact model number. It is within the regulations of any checked bag for airlines. And if you check it in, they immediately flag it as a gun case and they will refuse to lose it.
Okay, how much did they pay you for that sponsorship? How much? Cough it up.
None. I bought two Pelican cases at $310 a piece.
How much did they pay you to say that? How much? Come on, let's see. Come on, let's see it. How much did they pay you to say that?
I am not sponsored by Pelican.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Let's see.
I
see.
am.
Oh yeah,
I
there's a
am.
couple emails. Oh yes.
No, like the reason why I did that is because I used to work for the Navy.
Oh well, thank you for your service, soldier.
I'm not a soldier. I am a contract employee. I am a software expert. I am no soldier.
It's just kind of like fluke. He was in the Air Force, yet he got drafted as a construction worker. It was like, oh, you were flying airplanes? No, I was constructing buildings.
No. I wasn't even a service member. I was just contracted by the Navy to maintain their software systems on their subs because they can't be trusted to do it.
Wait, did you actually go on like a sub, like under, like actually, or was it just something that was off, or like, remotely? Or did you actually go on a submarine?
Not remotely. I have been on base. I can't say any more than that due to my clearance.
So you can't tell if you actually been in a submarine before?
No, I cannot. I can say I was just involved with it.
Oh, I see. Is the government watching you? Is the CIA listening? Is the NSA? Is Area 51? Have you been to Area 51?
No. I'll put it this way,
You just know some things.
I might as well be a former government employee with high-level access.
You might as well be the Secret Service now, because you know too much. They have a sniper right on the roof, ready to take you out if you spill the beans.
My uncle was at Area 51.
Oh my gosh, did he wear one of those tinfoil hats? Those things?
Like,
conspiracy hats?
oh, he was actually part of the Air Force there. It's just an Air Force base.
Yeah, obviously, we know that. It's pretty obvious. Like, people know more about Area 51 than they did back then, obviously. It's an Air Force base. You could see it from the satellites. Like, nothing is secret. Like, you could, like, if you
anyways,
actually...
I did work for the Navy in a contractor capacity, working for software systems on tactical and non-tactical ordnance. That's my official laundry statement for you. Take it as you will.
All right. So, yeah, I'm not going to ask for any clarification of that because obviously that's probably something that you probably wouldn't spill the beans on. But I think I have an idea of what ordinance means. So, yeah, we're getting a little bit off topic. So one last final question about you. So, what is I lost my train of thought. Get it back. Where is it? Gotta go find it. So, oh yeah, found it. So, what is the best and worst con experiences? Like taking out travel, travel stories or that type. Like none of that. We're just gonna, leave that out. Like at the con, what is the worst or like creepiest or just like the worst experience and the best experience?
Honestly, the best experience I would say was the first Anthrocon I went to. And that was also the first Anthrocon I went to visit my boyfriend, and that was also the first Anthrocon I really went to as a furry in general. Being a Pittsburgh local, Anthrocon was actually the last con I went to. My first furry con was Bruno Equinox in Canada. I consider that my home con more than any other con, only because that before that I never was really into the furry con scene. It was a friend dragging me along to Bruno Equinox a number of years ago. They got me into more or less the con scene side of fandom. And with Pittsburgh in general, honestly, although Pittsburgh's my hometown and Pittsburgh is very dear to my heart, it still gets second place, unfortunately.
Okay, so worst con experience or the worst con like happening. Like what was the worst thing that
Worst
happened?
con experience, probably a quadifer last year.
Oh, fuck off.
There's a specific, and it wasn't due to furries. It wasn't due to furries.
It wasn't due to the furries, of course. No,
it was due to normies. It is not a fun experience.
Yeah, Addie actually, I actually was talking with Addie Boyo, and she said that it was very mismanaged and very poorly managed. It was just a whole shit show of, just like adaptions and things. It wasn't the best managed. That was the biggest complaint. Like, would you agree with that?
Addie would definitely have a better perspective on how things were run con-wise than I do. Because she was more...
And we're Wisconsin.
Addie was more involved with Aquatifer than I was. I wasn't really involved other than just being an attendee. I was just your generic furry attendee that went to Aquatifer. I didn't play any role in the con program or anything of the decisions involved with that.
Besides attempting to make Addie into sushi. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yum.
But in terms of Aquatifer, what it made Aquatifer worse than any other con that I've been to, is there were some construction workers in the 2 suites across from us in Aquatifer. Like, we got one of the luxury suites because we paid additional extra for it. We were already out of state, so we're like, fuck it, we're going to get a hot tub in our fucking room. We're gonna grab this. We're going to grab it by the balls. We're gonna have an awesome time.
Stripper poles everywhere. Let's have a good time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which room was that actually in? I think there was like 2 rooms that were like YouTuber rooms, or weren't you not in that? They actually recorded a fluffed up podcast episode in the freaking hot tub. And oh my gosh, the audio is so terrible. It's just you hear in the background. You just hear.
Are you talking about the one where I force-fed Beta and said, "Here comes the plane that was used as the
I hate this.
Yeah, that was
just the Wii music in the background. Yeah, I remember that, but that's not what I'm talking about. It was like was it? Or is that the one I'm talking about? There was like there was one room that had like a stripper pole thing or a performer pole.
That was our room.
That was your room?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Then what were you kids up to there?
You don't want to know.
Shut up, Mom. This is why there's locks on the doors.
Shut up.
That's why there's locks on the doors.
No, what made that con bad was we had 2 neighbors to the adjacent rooms. They were normies. They were construction workers. And you're in for a bad time. If you're walking down the hall and you have a pool towel next to you because you just came from the water park, and you have a straight guy saying, "Oh, look at that nice fine ass."
Okay, fuck off. Fuck off. That is
back to your room. And then that wasn't the only instance. That was one instance. like we're talking constant harassment throughout the entire con of, oh, look at that queer go by. Oh,
Why-
look at that.
Well, then why didn't
gay-
you contact con security? Because technically
We
you can
did.
file charges for harassment.
We did. The hotel actually sent up a security officer, and basically they said, you do this shit again, we're kicking you out on the curb. And the security officer, after the fact that they confronted those 2 rooms in question, they came to us and said, yeah, they've been here for a number of weeks beforehand, and we don't believe we don't believe any of their story where they said you were harassing them. You just showed up here and all of a sudden the problems just started. They're clearly the problem. Keep on doing what you're doing. You are respected by the resort in general, and they recognize that we didn't cause these problems. This was just homophobic assholes who just wanted to
Just try
Bring
and
our
push your
property.
buttons and try and make you guys look bad.
pretty much, yeah. Like, to the point where they were pretty much banging on our door.
Okay, now that is just straight up. That is
trying
just straight
to
up.
get in trouble.
That is straight up stalking. Like in no way.
Well,
That's
it
just,
was like you're talking drunk normies who
Hey,
really have
politics.
who just want validation. That's what they are.
Yeah, so so what's the besides the feeding Beta the airplane, what's most hilarious parts about that con, do you think? Cuz
I put Solus in some stocks. That was cool.
that is a
Wow.
weird statement. How did you fit him in there? And we all know the
I have a picture of that. I put Solus in stocks.
We all
Literal
know-
stocks.
Oh, stocks. I thought you said socks. And we all
No,
know the
stocks.
the glitch eggplant debauchery of Aquata for 2019. We all know that meme. We all know how that went.
No. This is Solus the wolf.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about something else.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I also know the reference. No, I put Solus in a set of stocks. The hotel had, as part of Halloween at the time, they had a set of stocks that you could put a person and take photos on. And I put Solus in stocks and took a photo.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. I think I know what you're talking about. It's like the thing where you put like your head and your hands through, and yeah, yeah. It's just like when
That's-
Glitch said like I'm the best whore ever, and to try, I'm the best whore ever.
You know, it's a little bit scary hearing about this stuff a year and a half later.
Oh my.
It's like, oh great, our tales of debauchery have spread.
Yeah, and we all remember the eggplant. Yeah, the cursed eggplant of Aquata for 2019. What was your initial reaction to that? Like, was it just, what the fuck are they doing? Like, are they, like, what type of drugs did they take to think about buying that?
It's Glitch being Glitch.
Oh, well, yeah, that's probably what I expected. It's just, it was just like, what the fuck is this?
I've known
Fuck you, Beta.
I've known Glitch since I got started in the fandom, so it's no real surprise to me.
Yeah, he's actually announced he's leaving the fandom. That's a real shame. Like, I don't know if it's for memes, but I really think it isn't for memes, but he's pretty serious about leaving the fandom.
Are you talking more or less as recent or him leaving Twitter?
Well, no, like full on. Like he says he doesn't find interested in it anymore. Like he'll still keep his fursuits and everything, which I find weird. If you don't want to be in the fandom or don't like the fandom, then
I mean, it's fully understandable in his situation, to be honest. From being harassed on Twitter mostly for stuff he didn't do.
That's like, I mean, that's why I don't do Twitter at all. It's just like, oh my goodness. Like the one time I attempted Twitter, I was out within a month because it was just, oh my gosh.
Put it this way. Do you want an outside perspective of someone who actually has known Glitch for a number of years and actually has interacted with him as an actual person?
We're probably, I mean, me and him are probably just twin brothers that were separated at birth because we're both have exceptionally horny thoughts and both horrendously inappropriate jokes out in public and have very screwed up senses of humor. So, I mean, go ahead. Oh, shit. Ah, crap. Technical difficulties. Ah, crap. All right, we'll be right back, guys. Oh, crap. Alrighty, you guys. I'll be right back. We are having technical difficulties with the internet because I love internet. Yay! Alright, guys, so I think this is the best place to stop for now. I'll see you guys in the next one. This is. I'm gonna hop onto the chat once my internet, like, at least has some. Can stop screwing itself. Yeah, alright, yep. Yeah, I'm gonna end it here, guys. So, I'd like to thank Lumunix here for asking questions and for answering my questions. You can't hear me at the moment because we are not on it, but yeah, if he ever sees this, then thank you for answering the questions and for asking me questions. So thank you guys for listening to this episode of Chaser Talks, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great one.